All right, so it is 1 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and kick things off here. Make sure my mic is working. Yep, it's working. All right, so today we're going to be talking about sexy versus tried and true sales and marketing methods. And the reason for this is there's a lot of noise out there as to what works for marketing, what doesn't work, or what extent does it work, because truly everything does work. It's just to what extent does it work and how effective it is for your actual business. So the goal of this session is to give you the cold hard truth that most people don't want to tell you when it comes to marketing, and understand the order of operations when it comes to your marketing plan. So just a little agenda. First, we're going to talk about Warren Buffett versus crypto. And that will relate to this presentation, I promise. What are sexy channels and why do people like them? We're then going to discuss the elements of sexy channels. And then we're going to talk about what are tried and true channels and why people don't necessarily like them or why they're not drawn to them. And then the last thing is we're going to talk about how should your mindset shift to start thinking about your marketing instead of how most people think about it. And then just a quick next steps for your marketing campaigns themselves. So first, I want to talk to you about Warren Buffett. He was the person I put on the little post because he is a great example of this. So if you don't know who Warren Buffett is, he's one of the richest people in the world. I believe his net worth is over $100 billion. And when I first heard the story, I didn't know that Jeff Bezos asked him this question. He's also either the richest man or Elon Musk is, but they're all just ultra billionaires. But Jeff Bezos asked legendary investor Warren Buffett, "You're the second richest guy in the world. Your investment thesis is so simple. Why doesn't everybody just copy you?" And Buffett replies to this, because nobody wants to get rich slow. And this is extremely true, right? The way most people approach business or investment or anything they're doing to make money is they want to get rich very fast. And nobody has the long-term thinking to just do what is guaranteed, even though it's boring and it's going to take time and it's going to take work, but ultimately it's going to guarantee you success and money. Now, the other picture I have in this graphic is the wealth curve of Warren Buffett. Now, while the numbers are still huge relative to most people, you can see that his wealth only really exploded once he reached around 66. Now, throughout the years, he was making great money. This was his net worth. So you can see, like, at 14 years old, he was worth 5K. At 35, he was worth 7 million, doing just fine for himself. At 50, he was worth 376 million. Boo-hoo, right? But it really starts to accelerate towards the end because of the compounding effect and the fact that he was so patient in his investing. So again, it's not sexy to say that, hey, well, by the time you're 70 or 80, you're going to be worth billions of dollars. Most people don't have the foresight to actually go through and do the hard work and actually be patient enough to let the things work. They rather would chase the sexy new opportunity that could make you a millionaire overnight. But in reality, a lot of times it doesn't. So the perfect example of that in the current market is cryptocurrency, right? Now, crypto's been around for a long time. In fact, when me and Eric first started marketing, our boss used to mine Bitcoin and he had hundreds of them. It was actually crazy, but that's a whole other story. So there's a lot of cryptocurrencies out there that will just explode in value overnight. And that is very attractive to the person who is trying to get rich quick and make a quick buck. Because again, you can put in a couple $100 and then the next day you can have $1 million. And literally that's happened to people. My own story of crypto is there is a coin out there called Shiba Inu. It is literally a joke of a coin. It's based off the little dog. And Shiba Inu is worth 0.00001 of a dollar. And the reason I show Shiba Inu is when you start doing the calculations, you think to yourself, oh my gosh, if I put in $500 and this thing goes to a dollar, I'll be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's very attractive from that standpoint. And I did invest in Shiba Inu. I literally have like 100 million coins or whatever it is. And it did make some money for a little bit, but then it crashed and burned. And so this is one of those sexy things out there that is just a shiny object that distracts you. Another example of this is this little ape guy. You'd be shocked if you don't know what this is. This is what's called an NFT. And that picture itself, the unique picture, it's like a piece of art, a piece of digital art, has sold for, I think, like $1 million. And now it's worth like $100 because crypto has crashed. So again, the slow, steady, guaranteed method of making money is the Buffett method, which not a lot of people are attracted to. Rather, they would go after the sexy crypto get rich overnight method. And this is generally what you see in the marketing trends. A lot of people are drawn to super new shiny objects because they think they can get rich quick or they can make a quick buck, when they should be focused on the tried and true methods. And now we're going to get out of the crypto and stock investing world. We're going to talk about those marketing methods now. So what are sexy channel / methods? So the biggest one right now is TikTok. And trust me, I have nothing against TikTok. I think it is going to be the platform of the future. It is very different than Facebook as a social media method though. But TikTok is what's new, it's what's hot, and a lot of people really like it. And the next thing is automated funnels. So these are the two hottest marketing methods right now for attorneys, and a lot of people are into these. And the reason is because you have the ability to be early and get cheap conversions. This is why everybody is attracted to these two channels. Or you can cut your sales process or workload down so you don't have to give as much service. You can have an automated funnel, and in a perfect world, somebody buys your service online. These are the two things that people really like. And honestly, they're pretty cool. As a marketer, I do like TikTok ads. I do like automated funnels. I think they're really awesome. But these are the channels that everybody's after. Now, it's important to understand the elements of a sexy channel, because every single element in this channel is a failure point. So when we look at a TikTok / automated funnel, the first aspect of this channel is the audience itself. So you have to select the right audience. This is one method that can fail. If you select the wrong audience, then was it the audience that failed, or was it your creative? Now, the next aspect of an automated funnel or a TikTok ad is going to be creative. And typically for these types of funnels, you're going to be looking at video creative of some sort. So you have to create a video, and then once they click the ad, they have to go to a landing page or some sort of conversion method. You have to turn that click into a lead or into a sale somehow. And that is usually done on the landing page. And then after the landing page, you have to have some sort of sales process, right? You have to have an upsell, or you have to have a cart or something like that. If it's an automated funnel, or if it's a lead gen funnel, you have to have a sales process. Now, the problem with this method of conversion from targeting an audience all the way to a sale is there are a lot of points in this process that have a lot of variability. So the first is the audience, right? Are you selecting the right audience? The second is the creative. Are you good on camera? Have you delivered the right message? Did you pique their interest? The landing page itself, once they get there, are they converting? And if they're not converting, why are they not converting? So all of this to say, the reason that sexy channels are really difficult to make work is there are so many elements that go into conversion that you have to test them constantly. Now, if you're an advanced marketer and you have the ability to A, run the A/B test necessary to actually get this thing to convert, and B, have the money to test it, because it costs money to test these funnels, you have to send traffic to this over and over and over again until your conversion metrics are in line. A lot of people don't have the patience, and they don't have the skill to actually test these methods. So that's why sexy channels are really, really difficult. They can work, and they can work really, really well, but they will typically require a very advanced marketer and a lot of money to test to make it work. So that is my big problem with a lot of these channels, is a lot of people don't understand what goes into making an automated funnel work, or TikTok ads, or things like that. You have to really be good at creative advertising and sophisticated funnels. So now let's look at the other side of that coin. What are some tried and true methods? So if I was running a law firm, these would be my top channels. It would be Google Ads, it would be SEO, and it would be purchase leads. Now, the reason people don't like these channels is because they're typically more expensive, and they require a dialed-in sales process, which means that it requires work to actually convert these leads. You actually have to have a sales process. You have to have your sales process dialed in. You really have to be diligent when it comes to converting these leads into clients. And they're just really not that cool, right? Google's been around forever, and most people see that as a negative. What I see that as is an extreme positive. Google is tried and true. It's been around for years and years and years. And while they do regular updates, they are not as severe as your Facebook algorithm changes or your TikTok changes. Those changes tend to be way more severe and hurt advertisers way more than Google changes. I've been advertising for 10 years now, and Google has been relatively the same for quite a long time. Their SEO algorithms update from here and there, their ads update for here and there, but it is not nearly as severe as Facebook. And the cost increase is not nearly as severe as Facebook. And I'll explain why in a few slides. So Google is one of the things that is just about guaranteed to work for you. And the reason I can make that claim is based on the way that Google works relative to other platforms. So there are just a few stipulations as to why Google is guaranteed to work for you. And those are, you have to practice a similar practice area to your competitors, which obviously you do. you have to charge relatively the same amount as your competitors, and you have to close at relatively the same amount as your competitors. So you have to have a similar price service, and you have to close at just about the same rate as your competitors, meaning for every 10 leads you get, if they're closing at 20%, you need to be in that neighborhood of closing rate. And you'll understand why this matters on the next slide. So a lot of times people say that Google is just too competitive. Now, why they say that is because Google ultimately is an auction system. And so how it works in the Google advertising space is everybody in your area, let's just use family law as an example, are bidding on keywords. And if you think about an auction, let's say that you were bidding on a piano and you bid $500 and the guy next to you bid $600 and the guy next to him bid $650. You're all within the same range of bidding for that piano because that is what everybody values the piano at. Google works exactly the same way for keywords. All of the advertisers in an area in a given industry are bidding on keywords, and they're only willing to bid so much. And that is how you are placed in the auction and on the page. So if you're in position 1, you're willing to pay a little more than the guy in position 2, and he's willing to pay a little more than the guy in position 3. Now, the reason that it works is because all of them understand what their cost per acquisition needs to be in order to be profitable. So as a result, they're only going to bid so high to get a lead because they know that, okay, if I'm bidding too high, I'll no longer be profitable because my lead cost will be too much. So let me just take you through a few industries here to give you an example of how different the click cost can be based on the industry you're in. And ultimately, it all comes back to how much do you make off of a customer. So in the example here, I have HVAC company as number 1. Now, an HVAC company is an AC company for those of you that don't know, and they're going to either do some vent cleaning or they're going to sell you a full AC, and they can make quite a bit of money off of you, between like $500 and up to $10,000 if they're selling a high ticket item like an AC unit. So they're willing to pay quite a bit per click in order to get leads. Their maximum cost per click in this area, this is in Tampa, is $47 a click. So every time somebody clicks an AC ad, they're paying $47. Now, this will translate to roughly $150 lead cost, maybe a little bit more. And the reason that that's so expensive is because AC companies know that leads are valuable to them relative to their service. So they're willing to pay $150, but that's because they know that they can sell you a $5,000 AC or a $10,000 AC. So they're willing to pay that amount per lead. Now, a dentist, which is the next one down, they're willing to pay maximum $19 per click. It's quite different than an HVAC company. And why is it different? Because that dentist knows that they may get a teeth cleaning, maybe they'll get some braces, but generally it'll start with lower ticket items as a dentist, and they're not willing to pay that much for a lead. Now, where a dentist makes money is they'll make money on your return visits and all that fun stuff, which is why it's still a competitive market. But it is not nearly as competitive as HVAC because HVAC sells a more expensive product. They're willing to pay more per lead. Now, plumber is another great example. They're willing to pay $50 a lead. Plumbers also have very high ticket services. They're willing to pay a lot for a lead. Another great example is a divorce attorney. So the top of page bid for divorce attorney is $29, right? So they're willing to pay around 60, 70 bucks a lead because they know that a divorce is worth a good amount of money to them, but they're not willing to pay $331, which is what a car accident lawyer is willing to pay. So why is there such a big difference there? Is because auto accident attorneys know that that case could be worth between $10,000 and $200,000. So they're willing to pay up every single lead, which is why it's such a competitive market. So those are the dynamics that you have to understand when it comes to Google. The market sets the cost, which means that if your metrics are in line with your market, you should be able to compete with the biggest guys on Google. That is why it's such a unique platform. Now, the other platforms work is they work by selling people ad space and just you're paying for eyeballs at this rate. So if you think about Facebook, right, you advertise to someone who's interested in a divorce on Facebook. But that person may also be interested in Coca-Cola. They might be interested in Toyota. They might be interested in Amazon products. And so now you're competing with that for that person with every other big brand that's showing them ads on Facebook. So Facebook is very different because that person is being advertised to by the biggest brands in the world, and you're trying to advertise to them for a divorce. So not only are they getting all kinds of advertisements, but the platform itself has a finite amount of users and everybody is competing over those users. So you have to have ads that stand out and you have to deal with rising ad costs because it's such a finite audience and everybody's competing for it. So it's very, very different than the way Google works. Google is set by the market. So the metrics will stay in line if the market stays in line. Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and YouTube is set by eyeballs. And so as bigger brands come into those platforms, the costs rise because they only have a finite amount of users. So super, super important dynamics there to understand. So now that we understand the platforms, we understand the elements of a sexy and non-sexy funnel and why one is guaranteed to work and the other is very, very dependent on experimentation and skill. I want to give you one idea that can kind of shift your mindset. So if you don't know who these two people are, one is Dan Kennedy. He's kind of like the father of advertising. So he's like a mentor to Russell Brunson, to Alex Hormozi, who's the other guy. And Dan Kennedy says, whoever can afford to pay the most to acquire a customer wins. This is a really important statement because the reason people go after sexy marketing channels generally is to try and get in early and pay a really small cost per acquisition to get clients, right? It's fun to be early and it's fun to have a cool, unique system that you pay a very little amount to acquire a customer. What Dan Kennedy suggests is that you should be willing to pay a lot to acquire your customer because you can monetize them so much more effectively than your competitors. And that's another idea that Alex Hormozi really propagates is the more value that you can provide to your customers and make them more valuable, ultimately every single channel will work in your favor because you can afford to pay more than your competitors to acquire them. So if you think about that from like a world domination standpoint, right? If your competitor can only afford to pay $500 to get a divorce client and your next competitor can only afford to pay $400, they have constraints. If you can afford to pay $3,000 to acquire that client, then you can advertise on every platform and pay up the most and get the most volume because cost per acquisition is no longer a problem for you. So why is it that this is so important is because then you can take your ads to Google, you can take them to YouTube, you can take them to TikTok, you can experiment and pay up a little bit to learn because you're not worried about cheap cost of acquisition. So it's really important to not only think of, yes, it's great to have cheap customer acquisition, it's more important to make your customers more valuable to you. And you're probably asking, well, how can you do that, right? So the first thing is you can charge more. That's the big obvious answer is charge more for your services. In some practice areas, though, that's not allowed because you guys have legal, limits on what you can charge. But for instance, if you're a divorce attorney, you could probably charge more. If you're an estate planning attorney, you can charge a little more. The other way to make your customers more valuable is to start offering litigation. So if you do litigation, generally these cases are longer in life cycle and people tend to have reoccurring aspects to these payments. So the customers themselves are worth more. For an example, as an estate planning attorney, if you sell a trust, that trust could be worth $5,000. If you're a divorce attorney, the lifetime value of a single client that's a big case could be worth $50,000. So if you both pay a similar cost per acquisition of $500, who's making way more money on the back end? The divorce attorney that's charging 50 grand for that case versus your $4,000 trust. So it's really, really powerful. That divorce attorney now has a whole bunch of extra money to go and market out to the world and grow much faster than you when you only make $4,000 and you have other expenses that go along with that. So litigation is a really great way to increase the lifetime value of your customer or your average customer value. Now, the next thing is upsells. And a lot of people are probably thinking, well, what can I upsell them? So for example, if you're an estate planning attorney, right? These are people who are thinking about the end of life. They're preparing. You could sell this person final expense insurance. You could sell this person life insurance. You can sell them the idea of probate once obviously that comes along so you can get introduced to their family. Now on the probate side of things, if you do probate, a lot of attorneys, well, not a lot, some of them are actually doing real estate as well as probate. So whenever the probate happens and there's a house to sell, now they get a 3% commission on, $1 million house, and they are tremendously increasing their average customer value by this. And this is a really, really effective way to really bolt on a huge amount of revenue to your practice area where people have a need for both your services. So upsells are really good. Now, in the case of like a divorce attorney, right, you can sell counseling services to the kids, or there's all kinds of stuff that you can provide more value to your customer because they need these things, and you make more money on the other end of it, right? It's not all about you making money. It's about you providing service to the end user. So if you're offering counseling and you're offering, financial help and all that other stuff, you're providing a better service and you're increasing your customer value, which then allows you to go to every single platform and dominate the platform. So the mindset shift here that I got this idea from Alex Hormozi that he talks about is instead of hunting for cheap deals and shiny objects because you're trying to get in early and save a little bit of money for a small period of time, because these things never really last. Instead, try and focus on providing more value to your customer so you can charge more, and your cost per acquisition becomes less and less a factor of your overall business equation. So that's a really, really powerful idea that, again, I would encourage you to go watch these two. They talk a lot about it because it will really unlock your growth potential. All right, so what should you do now? Now that you understand that there are some sexy channels that are much harder to actually work than most people think, you understand that there are definitely tried and true marketing methods out there that have dialed in metrics. They're very, very easy to actually get running. And again, they're boring, but they're very, very reliable. So before experimenting, I would encourage you to try the simple channels that are proven and consistent. And once you have crossed several $1 million in revenue, you could then go have fun and experiment with the fun, sexy channels. Because as a marketer, I love new channels. I love experimenting with marketing. I like funnels. I like all that stuff. But I know what works for us, and it's very, very consistent. And until that's dialed in, I don't mess with anything else. And it is my belief, and I've seen it over and over again, that one single lead source can easily take a firm to $2 to $3 million a year very, very consistently. And once you have that lead source dialed in and a consistent sales process, it's very easy to get to those larger numbers. And from there, once you've established that, once you're consistent, it's then easy to go and touch on those experimental channels. So I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions about these or funnels or anything like that, please feel free to reach out. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you on the next one.